This is a DMB Society podcast.
I got a sister named Jane.
And this is the pod that Jane likes. Hey everybody, welcome back to the pod that Jane likes. This is Matt, and I am joined as always by Jeanette, Trisha, and Sean. And we are so glad to be back to recap some more Summer Tour 2025 shows with you and have a fun jam on some of our favorite and unique encore moments. Please make sure that you are following us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can get these episodes live on YouTube. Give us a follow wherever you find Pod That Jane Likes. I also wanted to plug quickly before we get into it our t-shirt offerings currently for the 2025 Summer Tour. Hot off the presses, I have our brand new Guilford, New Hampshire t-shirt. The Guilford shows are coming up soon, so get your orders in. This is the iconic Weirs Beach sign that is up in the area. If you've been driving around near the venue, you've probably seen it, and we turned it into a little sign for PTJL and DMB. Awesome. Which is really, really cool. And I'm excited for to wear this and to see as many of these as we can in Guilford. And Trisha, I believe you have right next to you our really hot seller. She's going to get it. If you're watching on YouTube, she's going to get it. Our really hot seller, which is our Summer Tour t-shirt, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Some trees, some birds, some tour dates. Actually, this is really a sweet shirt, and it's been a hot seller. So thank you to everybody who has already bought a shirt.
It looks awesome on everybody, and that Guilford shirt looks awesome in person.
Yes,
it really does.
Yeah, I'm pumped with how it came out. I am going to be living in it for the next for the rest of the summer, I should say. So before we get into everything else, I wanted to take a moment to welcome all of our new listeners. We released our episode last week with Rob Stevenson, and we've had a ton of great feedback. And so I know there are a lot of people who are listening to us for the first time. And I just wanted to say welcome and let you know that we regularly discuss all things DMB. We've got different viewpoints, different opinions on this podcast, which is something that I think makes it really, really unique. We've done a couple of sold out live shows, and our episodes cover a lot of history as well as current day DMB. So I figured if you're new here and you wanted to explore a little bit and dip your toe in to some other episodes from the pod that Jane likes, I want to give you a few things to check out. Episode 25 is our introduction to DMB, which is a great episode, a great listen. Episode 72, we all took a trip to the Sphere in Las Vegas, and we reported back on sort of the cutting edge of concerts at this point in time with the Sphere. I thought that was a really fun episode. And then episodes 80 through 84 cover the DMB Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in depth. We did some deep dives on a lot of different stuff, and then we actually attended last year in Cleveland, and we recapped that in, I think it's episode 85. So go listen to those as well. And then finally, we have done a few album discussions to date, with episode 95 being, I think, the episode that we poured the most into ever of anything that we've ever done here at the pod that Jane likes. We poured our heart and soul into that. That's the Before These Crowded Streets album revisit and review. That was a ton of work, but a ton of fun, and we had a great time, and hope that everybody who's already listened to it has enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it. And I would highly recommend, if you're new here, to go check that out. So like I said, we released our interview with Rob Stevenson last week, and the response has been incredible. Rob really opened up, and we feel so grateful that he shared everything that he shared with us. There are some great stories that had us laughing. He had us crying. It was really an amazing interview. Trisha, you have had your ear to the ground on the response back from the masses. What's some of the feedback that's been shared with you on this?
Well, like you said, it's been incredible feedback and overwhelmingly positive. And I think it's because Rob is someone that we all know in that he radiates joy and surprises people with set lists, and he's kind enough to go live on the lawn or live when he's side stage, and he'll take a selfie with you. But no one at a show, has time to really get
Mhm.
to know Rob as who he is more fully. And I think that this episode allowed listeners to learn about him in a deeper way. And I really thank Rob for being vulnerable and sharing how he got into this work, sharing his experiences on the road, and how this is all grounded in his faith, and how much everything he has done is grounded in his desire to serve and help. And I think it just gave people such a deep appreciation for him. I just want to read a couple of comments that came my way. Jean said, "What an incredible man. His faith is a pillar of his journey." And that was so nice to hear. Listening to you talk about your faith and adversity you faced and all the stories you shared have deepened my appreciation for you. How can one person who's been through so much radiate so much joy? It's just incredible and so inspiring. Michelle said, "I was not expecting to cry today. What a fabulous episode. And Rob is a gem of a human. How lucky are we to be that he is part of this DMB world?" Jory said, "Thank you for bringing stories like Rob on the podcast. Rob is such a huge part of the family, and his graciousness with all of us knows no bounds. Thank you, Rob. We love you here in this community." And Colin said, "I don't cry, but when Rob talked about his daughter, I broke down in the car. I've always loved Rob, but this gave me a whole new appreciation for him and the whole band and the crew." So I just wanted to read, we got tons of these comments coming through our inboxes. And I agree. Like, in reflection, I was like, wow, we got this interview with Rob. And I think it gave us all a deeper appreciation for the people that the band chooses to keep around them.
That's such a great way to put it. And how much work goes into it. Right.
Mhm.
And, I had a brief conversation with Rob on social media after it aired, and his biggest hope was that it was inspiring for people. And I have to say, most of the comments that we got, that word was used. I
Mhm.
feel inspired after I heard that. So kudos to Rob. And I feel honored that he came on and had a conversation with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was really great. Like I said, he just opened up so much, and more than I think any of us thought. That I think we thought we were going to ask him about Dave and about the band, and we really learned so much about Rob as a human, and
Yeah.
that was exceptional. In my opinion, to be able to see that, and now everybody I think knows his story a bit more, and again, it gives us even more of an appreciation for the kind of person he is. And he was already up here at this point. We talked in the interview about when he was on stage with the band. He sang with them in Charlottesville, and then sang with Dave and Tim in Mexico. And like, we were cheering him on, like, as a fan base, we're cheering him on. And like, now I think the shouts and the applause were big for those moments already. And I think after this, I think they would just grow and grow and grow,
Yeah.
which is awesome. So if you haven't listened to that, if you've been living under a rock for the last 2 weeks, please make sure you go listen to that interview, because it was really awesome. So but we've also, during that time, the band has been on a heater, as we said. I think we said that last time too. That has continued, and so we are going to jump into our opener and talk about the last several shows. Okay, so we last left the band, I believe Maryland Heights was the last show that we discussed, and so we are on to Charleston, South Carolina. This has become a popular venue, a place that people are booking trips to, a small venue, typically now a 2-night stand pretty regularly, and a Friday night concert series, which was great to have, as always. And Trisha, I know that you were hearing from a lot of people on the ground that it was hot.
Oh, hot. People were sweating. I mean, I think the temp, it was like, it looked like 86, 87, but I think with the humidity too, I mean, it just was really hot in there for people. Before we dive into the show though, you had commented on like this venue and people booking trips down there. I think that people absolutely love and adore this venue. And I just wanted to take a minute and think about this for a minute, because I think I understand why. Like, it reminds me of Forest Hills a bit, in that I believe it's a tennis court, right? So
Yep.
what makes it special, I think, is that you can like no one is covered and you actually have a sight line to everybody.
Yeah.
So there is this uniqueness about that venue where you feel so together, and it is smaller. Everybody was just using the word, it was magical. It was magical. And I think it was just like the skylines and the sunsets, and the fact that, I mean, I don't know, can you name another venue besides Forest Hills or West Bowl where we were just at where there's not a covered portion, like where there's no separation between all audiences? So I think that is really what's generating the magic. It got me excited to try to go to any venue that is set up like that.
Yeah, I think that it kind of gives you that same feeling as an indoor arena, but you're outdoor. And I think that
Right.
like those are my favorite kind of shows, arena shows. So if you're telling me I can be in an arena, be kind of outdoors, it's win-win.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
It also ends up being one of the smallest venues on the tour at just around 10,000 people. So I think that all of those things kind of add up to make the venue really unique. I also think when a show is taking place in a stadium, a tennis stadium in this case, you end up with a lot of really unique views and angles that you otherwise would not get at just your traditional amphitheater. Most notably, you end up with people on sides of the stages. And
Right.
I think it just leads into what ultimately becomes a really unique night. You're kind of seeing the band. You could have seen DMB 20, 30, 50, 100 times, but it's very rare that you're seeing them in any other type of a setting other than an arena or an amphitheater.
Right.
So these types of outdoor stadiums usually will provide some unique viewing angles.
So let's talk a little bit about the show, guys. There were a few notable moments throughout here, Charleston Night 1. Highly recommend if you can find a copy or just log into the SiriusXM app. I don't know if the show is still live on there, but it is definitely a fun listen. I think the first thing to talk about, we've got these 4 tour debuts in a row. We have 7. We have Again and Again. We have the song that I said this last year at the Gorge. The song that nobody asked for, but everyone seems to like coming back is Blackjack and Digging a Ditch. So these 4 songs come after Warehouse and PNP Pig, which have become obviously staples right now. Even the PNP Pig has been played a few times now. And then so 7 Again and Again, Blackjack, Digging a Ditch. Can we talk about Blackjack a little bit more for a second, guys? Like this is so to me, this is so, I don't know what the right word is here for this song. As I said last year, I just don't think that anybody was asking for it. Like if you when we go around the room before a tour starts and we're like, I've been on the Kit Kat Jam train for years now, and like nowhere near the top of my list is Blackjack, but here it is, a song that I don't think was ever really finished. I don't know, Sean. What do you think? What are your feelings when you think Blackjack? Are you in the same headspace that I am?
Yeah, I think to just take 30 seconds and kind of recap so that we're all kind of on the same page with Blackjack. Blackjack debuted in 2010. It existed in 2011, got a handful of performances in 2012, and then went totally MIA from 2012 until 2024 when it reappeared at the Gorge. I think a lot of people thought that was just going to be a one-off thing. It popped up at the Gorge, really fun little nugget for people who made the trip out west. But then we have had it now a few times, 3 performances to be exact so far in 2025. But I think to your point, Matt, what is maybe most conversation worthy, for lack of a better way to say it, is the fact that when Blackjack reappeared in 2024, now it's in, I wouldn't say regular rotation, but it's getting played from time to time. Of course, it is still very much an incomplete song. It's a song that I think a lot of people can get into musically. There's some really cool bridges in Blackjack that I find to be a lot of fun, but there aren't verses to it. And the chorus that exists has really existed for almost the entire lifetime of the song, but it's essentially a song with an unfinished, several unfinished verses, and a repeating chorus, some fun bridges. It's not a particularly long song, but it is a song that the band can have some fun and jam out a little bit. I think it's really hard to put Blackjack in a box. I think it almost just kind of exists in space as its own thing.
I have something to say about this song. I didn't ask for it to come back, but I'm not mad that it's back. It takes me back to the early days of DMB when they would always, play songs that weren't finished, and they would road test them, and they were not even, they never had been in the studio yet. And so it takes me back to that. It's like, oh, we forgot we were writing this song back in 2012 or whenever, 2010. Let's bring it back. Maybe it'll go somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
I like to think that maybe that's the inspiration for bringing this back, and I dig it. I don't know. Are there words in the chorus? No, he's yapping about, I don't know what he's yapping about, but like, I don't care. Like, I think it's, I love the chorus. So I'm okay with it being back, and maybe it will go somewhere.
I think
it's very much like that old school DMB,
it's a great example of like your quintessential DMB song with like this sort of like angry verse in almost like and I think it's in a minor chord, and then you've got your soaring, soaring orchestral like thing
bridge in the middle
of it,
and
then you go back to it, which I think that middle part of the music is great, and I'm hopeful to actually hear it.
Me too.
At some point this summer. So I
think that's I think that's the key, is I need to hear it. It doesn't do anything for me right now.
You gotta check it out.
But it's not even a check off. I think sometimes you need to hear a song live. I mean, it's a live band, right? Like I want to hear it live. I will say I put a poll up on my Instagram. What was your highlight of the last 6 shows? And the amount of people that wrote Blackjack it was the majority of the answer. So I do want to acknowledge that I think the community is really happy to get it. Like I don't think many people get it, right? So
good.
I would love to know this. It's an impossible task, but I would love to know, we're talking about Charleston, of the 10,000 people that were in attendance, what percentage of them were getting their first ever Blackjack? I would venture to guess that it's probably a lot of the people.
And it is on it's on a live recording, right, Sean? It's on City Field.
It's on City Live Field, in New York release. Interestingly enough, so that album took place, the performance took place in 2010.
Right.
And when that particular version was released, it's just like a 2-minute partial
It wasn't finished
version.
at all.
I was going to say,
just
even
the chorus,
even
I think.
less, yeah.
But interestingly
people have
enough,
heard it, so they're probably excited. Yeah.
Yep. However, what is interesting about the development of that song, you can take that 2010 2-minute version, and here we are 15 years later. The song's pretty much the same. It's just kind of extended, and now it fits into a 5 to 6 minute time slot instead of a 2-minute partial time slot. It's a really interesting case study, Blackjack, and I think I completely agree with Trisha's point. We could have a 2-hour long discussion about what we think of the song. That said, I am hoping in these next couple of shows that I'll be at, I hope I get a Blackjack.
Yeah, same. All right, so that's good. That's enough on Blackjack. I just wanted to do a tiny dive, not a deep dive, not like a
maybe
a pencil dive,
that's
not a
maybe that's for the future when we've actually all heard it live, like this tour.
Yes,
right.
Sure.
Sort of in our reflections.
Sure.
2025.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to mention here, for the second time, I think it is this summer, we get a 41 into Say Goodbye, and there's no connection between the songs. There is a hard stop between the two songs, and it begs the question, why is that? Is it
missed
because
opportunity?
I think it's I agree, Jenna. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. Is it because the band doesn't necessarily remember that that's how it is on the album? I don't necessarily even we dove into Crash pretty deep, and we've listened to interviews with Steve Lillywhite, and he's the one who's doing a lot of the mixing later on. So the band doesn't necessarily have any say in what's connected to each other when Lillywhite is doing his thing. So maybe it's just not even something that they think about. However, the fact that 2 times we've had 41 into Say Goodbye, and there's been 41 into Say Goodbye, many times before.
That
As you
have
said, Jeanette,
connected.
it's a
Yeah.
lost opportunity, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Agreed.
but still cool to have it at that show. Anything else that anybody wanted to talk about Charleston night one?
I do really quickly before we move past 41, because 41 has now it isn't bleeding into and transitioning into Say Goodbye, I think, the way that so many of us would like it to. But 41, the song, has gone through a little bit of a transformation from where we saw it in 2024. If you have caught number 41 at a show this year, what you may notice, and this is a great example because it's a Friday night concert series, so it is accessible in the SiriusXM app if you want to go listen to what we're talking about. But the back end of this song, and this has been the case now for a few performances, it has kind of evolved into a song that has the main structure of the song. And for the last few years, that main structure has gone immediately into Rashawn and a trumpet solo. And that solo has kind of given way to Tim Reynolds and an electric guitar solo. Things are a little bit different now in more ways than one. First of all, right now, Tim is kind of taking that initial solo. And I have to say, I love what that change has done to this song, because Tim is coming in at a much more upbeat place, and he tends to stay in that range. I just think it does wonders for what the back end of that song looks like. The second thing I think worth noting is the fact that as an entire song, the runtime for number 41 has drastically been reduced, at least to in comparison to what it's been the last few years, and certainly over the history of this song. In 2025, we of the performances that we've got so far this tour, we're looking more in the 6.5 to 7.5 minute range. So a far cry from where some of these monstrous number 41s were in the past. However, the runtime doesn't always tell the whole story, because I of course it's personal opinion, but I really like the way that the song flows right now. I'm pretty happy with. We've talked about number 41 on here in past tours, but I kind of think that this is an improvement, and I hope it kind of continues in that direction.
We'll keep our fingers crossed that at some point, someday, we will get a saxophone solo back into number 41. But that's another conversation for another day.
Well, the listeners want us to do a breakdown of the evolution of 41, which we will do in the future. That's going to take some time, but we will do that. The only thing I wanted to say about Charleston is it was a Friday night concert series, and we got to listen on SiriusXM. I thought Peace on Earth was one of the top performances of the night. That was my takeaway. And there was a lot of great performances. So that is just how highly Peace on Earth sounded. And spoiler alert, I actually walked away from Chicago night one feeling the same way. So I'm like kind of really into the song right now. I think it's much fuller than I thought it was.
Absolutely.
Quite the jam. Jam. So
I'm really looking forward to hearing that with my own ears myself live. Like, I'm really looking forward to that.
All right, so let's jump into night two. We have a lot to talk about. I think for night two as well. We kick it off with Bartender as an opener. I definitely want to talk about the encore of this show. So if anybody has anything to talk about other than the encore, let's get into it.
The only thing I have is Seek Up is back.
Me too.
Woohoo!
That was my comment. Was earlier that day I texted the group, "Where's Seek Up?"
That's right. You did. You were like, "Where's Seek Up?" And it's like they heard us. Maybe they're tapping our. Are they tapping our group chat? Are you guys tapping our group chat?
What I think is really cool about this show is with Seek Up, Jimmy, Two Step, and Bartender all in there, and even So Damn Lucky is close to 10 minutes long. You have a lot of like old school like DMB jams, which I feel like sometimes there's a chance you can go to a show and you get no songs over 10 minutes anymore, and so that would be in my eyes is a very welcome thing.
Yeah, and it's that's a great point. I totally feel the same way. I love the beginning run of this show. I think that Bartender into Ants. We've had a couple of Ants openers dating back to last year in Guilford that kind of started that trend again. And then we had a couple of them after that. But what a monster way to start this show. As a matter of fact, this particular performance of Bartender and Ants is the first consecutive performance in the main set of any D&B show ever for those two songs. So you're talking about really two beloved songs. In the case of Ants, a song that has been around since 1991, and Bartender's a song that has obviously existed for a good amount of time on its own. It debuted in 99. So for this being the first time that those have been played consecutively, not only is it a great way to kick off the show, but it's also an historic start to the show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, those songs, it's so interesting. Having gotten into the Grateful Dead a bit over the past few years, you have songs that are always set one songs, and you have songs that are always set two songs with the Grateful Dead.
Sure.
And I feel like this is very similar, and that's probably why that's never happened, Sean, because you always have Bartender towards the first half of the show, typically, I would say, and then you always have Ants towards the bottom. So the fact that they've never crossed paths, I think, to me, makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So it's always cool when things like that happen, and things get all jumbled up and keep us guessing. And we have a lot to talk about with these encores that we've encountered. So I'm going to jump down to the encore, because that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. We have a Baby Blue Granny encore, and Baby Blue, Dave talked about Ian, the band's long time crew member who passed away. I think it was earlier this year or late last year. And, just not a dry eye in the house as he's talking about Ian, and then goes on to play Baby Blue, a song that is heartbreaking in its own right, and a song that I always welcome as E1. I would take it E1 every single show for the rest of time, honestly, just because I think it's so beautiful and so perfectly placed there. And then to go from that into Granny as the E2 closer for the night, what a way to sort of bring it down and then bring it back up and send everybody just out of that place on a high. I mean, that is just that is so awesome. And I thought that this was such a unique and amazing encore. And it was, first of many that we're going to be talking about today, but I loved it.
I thought it was a brilliant choice on their part, because it was supposed to be Nancy's. And I think after the speech about Ian and then Baby Blue, to go out on Nancy's, I don't know. I think Granny was exactly the right choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
To go out.
Absolutely. Granny's is emotional in its own right. It's happy, but it's also brings up a lot of things for people.
And I guess the only thing I wanted to mention was they also closed that set with two-step, just to go back. And one of our listeners, Jason Smith, said it was the most energetic two-step he's ever heard personally. So, I mean, there was just consistent energy throughout this whole show.
You know what's so great about the song Two Step? I think that there is somebody every single time that Two Step has ever been played since the beginning of time that was like, was that the best Two Step that's ever been performed? I for sure know people after every show that I've seen Two Step at, and people are like, that Two Step, man, go back and listen to that again. That was unreal. And I just feel like that's always the case, which is such a testament to Two Step as a song.
Exactly.
And, it just is such a monster, and I'm so happy it's back. That's on my my small chase list for what's going on in this tour right now for for the rest of the summer. So Charleston, awesome 2-night stand. We then roll into Birmingham the following week with a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So we've got a stay opener, which is very interesting.
I love this
first stay opener since 2013 at a 1-set show, and I think it did open 2 sets, which is you can count it if you want to, but I love that. You're never expecting something like that to happen when you head in there. And then just a lot of other great moments.
Yeah, I mean, I would just make a note about the temperature again. It was 95 degrees. And this opening run, you would think it was just a breezy springtime, but you're gonna stay and Best of What's Around and Trippin' Billy's, and it was so right in the beginning and 95 degrees. I'm like, this band's nuts.
Dave's
So
shirt was
crazy.
soaked from the second chord of Stay.
Yeah.
I love it. But it's not, I think that's cool because like they could have opened with, I don't know, Virginia in the Rain or something slower, ease into the heat. And they're like, nah, we're gonna
No, we're gonna sing about the heat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Dave did not even have a chair brought out for Stolen Away, the tour debut of Stolen Away. If you review the tape back in previous years, back I think around like 2005, 2006.
Right when the album came out.
Right when the album came out, for some strange reason, just for the song Stolen Away on 55th and 3rd, they would bring out a seat for Dave to sing and play the song, and then he would finish and
He would
the
stand
seat
up
would
again.
go away, and it was very strange. But
Nobody
anyways,
knows why.
yeah,
Nobody knows why.
nobody knows why.
Still put that on the questions to ask Dave
Yep.
when we interview him.
If the stool comes out or the chair comes out, is that considered a liberation for the
Oh my
Stolen
God.
Away chair / stool? Who knows? We'll have to see. We also get Blackjack again. So I think it is here to stay, just to follow up our previous conversation on that. And we get a tour debut of Windows in the E1 spot, 27, and The Maker, which I love to hear The Maker anytime and every time. So I was happy to see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only song that was a repeat from Charleston Night 2 was actually Granny, which interestingly enough is not on the original set list. So this is something that was added last minute. And I only throw that out there because I fully give all of my support for adding in Granny each and every time that it pops up as a possibility. Anytime you want to throw a Granny in there, it doesn't have to be in the original set. Just sprinkle it in and you'll make an awful lot of people very happy.
I think Granny is one of those songs within the D&B community. You know, we have our viewpoints here on certain songs, but I feel like Granny is a song that even if you're a casual fan, if you're a diehard, like anybody and everybody has to love Granny. Right?
Is there somebody out there that doesn't like Granny?
No.
Email
Reach
us.
out to us.
I gotta pick your brain on why.
It's one of those songs that even if you don't know anything about DMB and you happen to tag along to a show with a few friends, I almost dare you to not get caught up.
Right.
And by the end of it, you're singing along with 15,000 of your new friends. It's just like this really catchy, contagious thing. And every single time it pops up, I smile.
Yeah. Great way to put it.
The thing I wanted to talk about with this show is Windows coming back. He gave his normal speech that he's been giving. He did say this was a prayer for Gaza and then sang Windows, and he cried and I cried. He did, but when he sang the lyric, look at how the children play, none of us know what's to come tomorrow, like he could barely get through that lyric. And it was so moving. And I just, between the tour debut of number 27 and Windows, which are two different songs, but they were like so cathartic. But I don't know, the timing of it. Dave has always shared his heart, but he's just been there's been some heavy stuff going on. Obviously deaths in his life, stuff in the news, weighing on him. And to have that vulnerable moment during Windows was very, I didn't expect to cry like I did. But also Windows is one of those songs where it could trigger a lot for all of us because
absolutely
anybody.
And that's what I was going to say. It just shows the versatility of his songwriting that to me, that song is such a time capsule of 2020 that I only see it that way. So for him to sing it and bring a completely different point of view to it and have now a completely different meaning. There's so many words in it that you're like, oh my God, this resonates now in this time, that it's just another testament to his songwriting.
Yeah. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's jump over to Alpharetta. And Alpharetta,
another hot one.
Oh my goodness. This has got everybody hot under the collar.
Just the classic Wednesday night in Alpharetta.
Your
just
classic
hot night. Under the collar.
Hot under the collar. And we do have a quote unquote set break because of weather. They had to leave after recently Gray Street Stay or Leave. And so they come back with A Fool in the Rain, which, great classic, not on the set list. Excited because there's rain. It's usually either that or JTR, right?
Mhm.
And then go into Jimmy Thing with Kebby Williams, who is a great saxophone player from Tedeschi Trucks Band, which was really cool. It's always great when I think we talked about it last time. Actually, they had in Brazil, adding to that horn section for Jimmy Thing is always a welcome
Yep.
Right.
a welcome thing. But then, guys, let's get down to it. I think the run of the summer for us, diehard fans here, you never know. Dive in, and a mid-set Ants, Spoon, Captain, Let's Dance, Drive In, Drive Out.
Hello.
Like
Hello.
that is.
You
There's
have our
so
attention.
many.
Yes.
You have our attention. There's so many things going on there. Obviously, Dive In is an extremely rare song. A mid-set Ants is also extremely rare. Captain, the tour
Captain,
debut of
hello.
Captain, out of nowhere, right? Out of nowhere, we get Captain.
Mm-hmm.
Let's Dance thrown in there, and then the tour debut of Drive In, Drive Out, a song that is criminally, you heard it here first, criminally underplayed.
Maybe the
Criminally.
most underplayed song in the catalog.
Raven.
Really?
I think I'm saying Raven and Drive In, Drive Out, I think are very close in that. The fact that Raven is just poking its head up once a year and then going away, right? But Drive In,
Dido
Drive
does the
Out is
same
just one of
thing.
those songs. It's this for me, like this was reminiscent for me of last year, Guilford Night 1. That the run that we got in there. This was incredible.
Yeah. I would take Captain and Drive In, Drive Out. I would just show up, Captain, Drive In, Drive Out, go home.
Oh,
I'd be all right. Good. That was a good show. Thanks, guys.
that was a good show. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, none of you probably care about this, but if you've been in the pit, there was actually some chaos in the beginning. They let Warehouse Pit and General Admission Pit in at the same time.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Tell us what the
think
ground is saying on that.
The ground, it was chaos. If you get a warehouse lottery and you get that coveted Warehouse Pit, you're in first. They let GA in at the same time. It was chaos. Then you get 3 songs and you have like the chaos of a storm coming through.
Ooh, yeah,
and then the band literally took that all away, which they do, of course, with this run. I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Who
love
cares where
that
you're
it kind of
at that point, right?
Oh God, no, I don't think anybody even remembers. I'm just reporting because it's a podcast of like what happened, but I truly think no one cared when they left after they got that. That's for
right.
sure.
Good. They delivered.
Absolutely.
They certainly did deliver. This run is when you put together a fantasy listing of, if you could pencil in a set list for a particular day. I think that the ones that really jump out on paper, at least, are Captain and Drive In and Drive Out because they're the tour debuts. But and Matt touched on this. Spoon and Dive In are both also extremely rare. Dive In 5 performances in the past 5 years. Spoon has a few more performances, but every year you can count on there only being about 3 to 5 performances per year. So both of these are incredibly rare on their own. They would be really noteworthy if they popped up really anywhere over the course of the tour. But the way that this was all kind of sandwiched together, just a really, really impressive run. I certainly hope that the tour debuts, they stick around. We've talked about this before, and I won't go too far into it right now, but Drive In, Drive Out is a song that I personally believe has an unbelievable amount of versatility. Drive In, Drive Out can be the highlight of a show in the middle of a show. It can close a main set. It can pop up in an encore. It's one of those songs that I think has unbelievable versatility. And I would like to see that. I hope it sticks around, and I hope that the band can get a little bit creative with where they're going to use it. And speaking of creative, it's easy to get hung up on this run because it's truly an epic run. But also, if we jump back into the encore of this show, Rye Whiskey performed Dave's solo in the E1 slot, but the E2 slot, Crash Into Me, incredibly rare. Just Crash Into Me being a part of an encore period is incredibly rare. As a matter of fact, this song has existed for 30 years, and there's only been 58 encore performances ever. The only thing more rare than a Crash Into Me encore is a Crash Into Me that ends the encore and isn't the first song coming
Yeah.
out of the
Right.
chute. So there's so many notable things that took place. If you happen to be in Alpharetta on this particular Wednesday, good on you, because you got a absolute classic bullet point of a show for the 2025 calendar year.
This was one of those where if you've got your DMB Hub app and you're getting the notifications for songs, you're like, is it broken? Like, is this real? And you have to
Right.
log in and just like and double check, because
Just
that
make
is
sure.
just, I mean, I'm Spoon Captain back to back is just silly, you know, and then you add Ants and Dive.
It's never happened. This is the first back-to-back performance ever of Spoon Captain.
Silly, just absolutely hysterically silly. Like, that is just great. Oh, all right. So we leave Alpharetta, we head up to Chicago. I think before we dive into these Chicago shows, because there is so much to talk about, I just want to say that I think that Chicago is, I think, the most underplayed DMB mecca in the country. You talk about the Gorge, you talk about, you know, venues like SPAC or MSG on the East Coast, and, you know, you throw Alpine out there, which I think sometimes gets tossed in with Chicago, but
It is.
also
It's
tossed
like,
in with
yes, if they're not playing Chicago, they're playing Alpine.
right.
Because it is only I want to say about a 2-hour drive. So I mean, I guess that takes the place of Chicago, but
Yep.
it's still Chicago.
And there's so much history between
Yes.
Wrigley shows, between live in Chicago. There have just been a lot of incredible moments in Chicago, and I think that this weekend sort of put Chicago back on the map as far as what it can bring for a DMB show. And you know, there's a lot to talk about here. First things first, I think on night one, the biggest thing to happen night one, we have a liberation of the song Loving Wings.
This makes me so happy.
The first performance since 2015, and you know, just a song that you could envision as being gone for much longer than that. You know, this is a song that is it's very simple, and it builds and it builds and it builds, and it's always been a great song to hear live. There's great work from the horns. We were talking offline about this, and really always reminds us of the Gorge and also of Leroy. And I just think that this is such a beautiful song that, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily, like, this version of DMB doesn't scream like, hey, we're gonna go out and play Loving Wings.
Right.
And so to have that, I think it's also very nostalgic for that reason.
Yeah.
So,
And, you know, I don't know if you guys remember, but the night that Roy died, the band still played the Staples Center in LA, and they played Loving Wings. And before they played it, Dave said this was one of Roy's favorite songs to play. So for that reason alone, you know, it took on a whole other meaning once we knew that Roy loved it, you know. So I'm just elated it's back, and I hope it stays. To me, it's a Gorge song to me. Like, I always am like, any you know, I go to the Gorge often. I'm always like, maybe this is the year it'll come back at the Gorge. So I've got my fingers crossed for this year.
Yeah, I hope that it would be great if it popped up at the Gorge. It'll be great if it pops up anywhere.
Yeah.
I think the song is just truly beautiful, and the most substantial liberation that we have to date in terms of when it was last played full band. You've got to go back 3,500 days for the last full band performance, all the way back to 2015. So time will tell if we end up getting a liberation, an even more substantial liberation than Loving Wings, but this is certainly a pretty sizable liberation. Absolutely a song, if you have a show coming up here in the next few weeks, certainly a song worth chasing, because it can certainly disappear and it can be gone for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think of all of the realistic things that are in play right now, this is probably number one for me, at least in terms of things that I'd be really excited if I happen to get a full band version of it in an upcoming show.
Yeah. Same.
well, and before this tour, would you have imagined that it would be not out of the realm of possibility to have like Captain, Spoon, Loving Wings.
Oh my God, stop it.
You know, like it's just like, again,
Mm.
crazy to think about.
Right.
You know, that you could be at a show and get that, and it wouldn't be necessarily out of the ordinary based on what we've seen so far. So
Mm-hmm.
that's incredible. That's why we keep going back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Other notes from the show, we get a couple of more tour debuts. We get Kill the Preacher and we get Dreaming Tree. So glad the Dreaming Tree has popped its head back out of the ground. I love the Dreaming Tree. I've actually eluded it for several years, and I'm really hoping to hear it. But that's another one that's in that category for me of songs that you could play at every show, and I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing as we're going through the set list that I want to mention, Trisha, you mentioned Peace on Earth a little bit early, a little earlier ago in the episode. To date, this is the longest Peace on Earth performance that we've had. And I do think it speaks to the fact that every time that Peace on Earth gets played now, it seems like it keeps growing and it's evolving, and every time is just a little bit different. I hope that continues. I hope that that's a theme through the entire summer. And I hope that we look back and we can kind of compare and contrast early 2025 tour versions of this songs to a little bit later. It is what's happening right now. I hope that continues.
Yeah, I'll say me too. But with this show, I'll tell you, looking at this set, I said it before and I'll say it again. The set's so good when you forget they played Drunken Soldier. When like that's that got lost and everything else. I'm like, you're in a good era of DMB.
Yep.
If Drunken Soldier's like just you forget about it. I had mentioned earlier how I asked people on Instagram what their favorite highlight of Elastic shows. Next to Blackjack, it was definitely Loving Wings. It was just everybody really loved hearing that. So did I. I love that it highlights the band. And on that note, I just want to bring everybody's attention to American Baby intro. And I know that Dave screams in that and we all think that's the highlight, but Buddy is the highlight of ABI. And it is that version, not all the versions, his beautiful intro to that. I hope you all pay attention to that next time you hear it, because it's pretty incredible. That was my Chicago Night one takeaway. And then I don't think anybody's really ready for my Trippin' Billy's hot take, so we'll hold it.
One other thing that I wanted to say, we've been talking about Peace on Earth quite a bit, and I think I mentioned this last time. We have kind of had a shift of Peace on Earth taking over that Madman's Eyes spot.
Interesting point. I didn't either.
Has kind of not disappeared completely, but it's certainly missing from, it was at least every other show typically, every 2 shows, 3 shows, you would for sure have it. So that's interesting, especially with how much people are loving Peace on Earth. But to stay with the theme here, guys, this encore, again, we talked Baby Blue in the E1, Give It to Me Every Time, and then close out the show with Bartender.
Woof.
Woof. Yeah,
the emotion there alone, Baby Blue and a bartender, like Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Literally.
This is literally a powerhouse of a way to conclude a show.
Yeah.
To put things into historical context, what happened on this Friday night at Northerly Island in Chicago has never happened in the history of DMB before. It's never been an E2. There's never been a DMB encore that has ended with Bartender.
Wow.
There has never been a DMB full band performance of Bartender in an encore. There have been Bartender encores, but they have taken place in different capacities. I think the easy one to go with is a Dave and Tim show.
Right.
There have been a number of 6 or 7 Dave or Tim Bartender performances in the encore.
Sure,
what happened
totally different.
In this instance, completely different, has never happened before. Definitely a unique version of Bartender. If you weren't at the show or didn't tune into the Friday night concert series, there wasn't a kind of the big traditional intro that we oftentimes will get with Bartender. It went from Baby Blue kind of directly into the body of Bartender, if you will,
That's
instead
kinda
of
cool.
the intro of it. But what an emotional way to conclude a show. It's I think when you factor in how rare it is, how out of the blue this was, I can't imagine walking away from this show being anything other than wowed, floored by this encore.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an incredible stat too, that they've never played it in an encore. Congratulations, Chicago. Like that's yeah.
Huge.
I tip my hat to you.
And then, not to be outdone, we jump right into night 2 with a Stone opener, right?
Just doesn't
we get
stop.
the
It just
Stone to
doesn't
opener.
stop.
Stone, so right. Proudest Monkey Satellite. I mean, and then What You Are, like, again, just a continued heater as we go here. More tour debuts. Proudest Monkey was a tour debut. Fool to Think. We're not going to talk about Hunger for the Great Light.
I was gonna say, are you just gonna skip right on over
We're
Hunger?
we're going to pretend that it didn't happen. And then, of course, I think the biggest tour debut of them all, the Last Stop, the full Last Stop,
Yes,
returning again for 2025, which is the most welcome sight of anything, you know, that has ever been in the world of DMB. Just the runs of Last Stops that we got last year, just having it being in the rotation as a possibility is just so great towards the end of a show. Just the best way to be taken out. We've talked about that for forever, seemingly, as far as our favorite pieces of music that the band has put out and what we want to hear at a show. But you know, this continued on from rolled right into night 2 from night 1, and was a great show.
Yeah, and the Last Stop, I just want to recognize, to me, that it's very interesting that it was played in Chicago, because I feel like, you know, at live in Chicago, we all know that version of it. But then when it was brought back in 2006, it was at Alpine. It closed out Wrigley Field, which actually was the last stop of that tour, right? So I just think that
it's a Chicago song.
It's a Chicago song. It belongs to Chicago. So I'm so glad that that's where it came back.
Yeah, and in addition to the way that things appear on paper, I just thought that there were some really great performances. A lot of the times we'll talk about the things that are rare, tour debuts, liberations, unique placements. The Stone, So Right, what a fun way to open a show. But even beyond how fun that looks on paper, I thought both of these versions sounded really, really good. I thought that the band really nailed the beginning run of this show. And in addition to what the songs are, especially if you're in attendance, how they're performed also goes a long way. And I thought these were two examples, two notable ones. Really beloved songs. You will have to search far and wide to find somebody that has a problem with the Stone or So Right. And if you come across that person, you should probably walk the opposite direction. But
that person and the granny person, the guy that doesn't like granny either. Who is that guy?
In addition to getting excited that they popped up and they're back to back, I thought that they were really well played versions. What a great way, after a really awesome night 1, what a great way to kind of kick off night 2.
And one other thing that I completely buried this on night 1, which I forgot to mention, was that One Sweet World made its tour debut, which is like kind of like
that's crazy.
I think that is a testament to how much things have been, you know, mixed up and shuffled around. You're expecting all these bangers right at the beginning now. That's kind of the formula, is you've got like 3 or 4 bangers right at the beginning. And One Sweet World used to be more of like a regular opener, right? Like we use it as our opener music.
Yeah.
And so having that just not even be present, and like, you know, now it's back and awesome. Everybody loves One Sweet World, but like, just so crazy that gets buried as we're talking about all this other great stuff that's been going on.
It's funny, earlier in the day I was like, where's One Sweet World been? And then they played it and I'm like, am I bugged again? No, I don't know.
There you go. We're being tapped.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say about these shows really quickly. Oh, go ahead, Sean. I'm going.
I was just going to add, I think to kind of piggyback off of what Matt was saying, it does speak to how creative things have have been thus far. 17
Yeah.
shows in, 105 unique song performances. So they've really tapped into a big chunk of the catalog. Obviously, I hope that trend continues. But the other trend that we've seen here in the last couple shows that I almost equally hope continues is setlist creativity with where we're seeing songs.
Totally.
I'm obviously over the moon ecstatic to have a full Last Stop back in rotation. Now I do think it would be fun, not only if it's stuck around, but let's see if there's some creativity with where that song pops up. A mid set Last Stop would be incredible. Kicking off a show with Last Stop would be incredible. There's lots of things you can do with it. But I did just want to take a moment to acknowledge the fact that here, as we are, 17 shows in, 105 unique shows, the band has really done a great job. If Matt has mentioned this in past episodes, and I guess this is another good example of a reason to bring it up. People were kind of panicking after the first two shows,
Yes.
right? With what we were
It
getting.
was a little repetitive.
All of a sudden, those shows seem like a very long time ago.
Yeah.
In terms of where things are at in the midst of this tour right now.
105 songs in 17 shows. Sometimes there's tours that we only get 105 songs, and we're not even.
Wow.
That's great. That's
And
incredible.
we haven't even seen Kit Kat Jam yet.
Oh
we're-
gosh, we're gonna see it soon.
Or snow
Gotta go for it.
outside.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
Or
man.
Crazy Easy.
The last thing I just wanted to say about Chicago is that Ian is actually from Chicago, from that area, and there was definitely a presence there. I suspect that's why Loving Wings was played. He did dedicate Loving Wings in Mexico earlier this year to Ian, and then he did a dedication before Baby Blue and Bartender to Ian too. So I think that I also know there was a meetup kind of celebrating the life of Ian Kuhn too. So there was that presence too, I think, throughout the weekend.
No, great point. Glad you brought that up.
Well, and we haven't talked about this yet. The end of the show in the E1 slot, we have Rye Whiskey. And then I was watching this live, and Dave, goes into PNP, and in past years, I mean, last summer of PNP, we had PNP go to so many different things. But it's the end of the show, you're expecting it's got to be Rapunzel, right? No, they go into Pig to close the show. A PNP Pig closer.
Whew.
Man,
So good.
You just go back and look at these encores, right? You've got this PNP Pig encore. You've got the Rye Whiskey PNP Pig. You've got Baby Blue Bartender. You've got Baby Blue Granny from Charleston. And this really has just been so far, I think, last summer, the big takeaway was it's the summer of PNP, right? You've got PNP into everything. And this summer, it seems this is the summer of encores. I think when you're expecting, a Rye Whiskey or a Sister in that E1 spot, yes, you might get one of those, but that second song is going to be, could be something special, which is great.
Where we sit today, the last three shows that the band has played, the encores have ended with Crash Into Me, Bartender, and Pig. If somebody would have told me that weeks ago, hey, DMB is going to go on this little run where they're going to end encores with these three songs, I would have said, well, you might be mistaken. I actually know that that's how it's going to go down. Yet here we are.
Right.
Yep, that's right. So as we're reviewing these shows, we thought it would be fun to share our favorite unique encores that were not a part of this tour, that are part of previous tours that we have been fortunate enough to experience. So let's do that, guys. Let's jump into that in the jam. Okay, so the band has left the stage. You've had time to pee since that epic ending run. Dave strolls out for E1. You're probably expecting Sister Watchtower, which was probably the most played encore for several years. But there have been some out of nowhere ones, as we just talked about, these Baby Blues, these PNP Pigs, these Bartenders, etc. So we wanted to come on and share, I think, our favorite unique encores that we have seen in the past. We didn't put a lot of put a lot of parameters here, so we're just going to jump into it. We haven't talked about it. It's going to be a surprise to everyone. So we're going to start with Trisha. Trisha, your favorite notable encore?
Okay. Well, by the time everybody's listening to this, it is July 2nd, 2025, which is our 3-year anniversary as a podcast is right around this time. And so in honor of that, I chose the encore from the show that our very first show as a podcast, the show that we met. So not only did we meet and that was special, but we got a really special encore. And that was when it was the Pay for What You Get Liberation and Too Much Fake into Halloween tour debut. So not only is that rare, not only did we get a liberation in the encore, we got a tour debut in the encore as well. And so that was just super unique and beautiful. And I think for people that just met each other and were being real nerdy about a podcast, that was like the perfect first encore for us
each other like a dead emojis, like coffins and like we're dead. We're dead.
And if I recall, I called people from the car because I wanted to talk about it.
You did. You did.
I think only Sean picked up.
Only Sean picked up.
So Sean and I just
I was eating a sandwich. Sorry.
So unique, special, and I think special to us too. As we are now at 104 episodes from that time. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
How far have we come?
I know.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's a good one. It was on my list. I just had to cross it off.
Well, Jeanette, do you want to go next?
Sure. My number one favorite, and it is the most unique because so many cool things happened all at the same time, would have to be Gorge Night 3 2022 when the band came out and did number 34. When you get to hear 34 Nevermind in the E1 slot, right? Then So Right, then What You Are. Like, so they could have been done at So Right, but then they went into What You Are. And it's not that those two songs, it's weird that they were played in the encore, but it was just the fact that there was two of them. And not only that, but on top of hearing those two songs, we got a drone show that, you know, that made it the form of a fire dancer and then made Leroy's face. Like, I mean, it just doesn't.
So cool.
It is so cool. And it's not so much like that it's like out of the realm, and I think number 34 is probably the most unique thing about this encore, but because who knows when the last time it was played since then, even before then, I don't remember, but I do think that what a unique experience, and I feel extremely privileged that I was at the Gorge for that I got to see that with my own eyeballs and hear it with my own ears. It was just definitely a treat.
Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the boys are going to say, but I think you win. I mean, you got a drone show.
I know. The one and only. We'll see. Maybe, maybe, who knows? Maybe they'll come back with a drone. Bring back the drone show. Should I hold that sign up? The
bring
next
back
time.
The drone.
I'm here for the drone liberation.
Yeah, I'm here for the drone liberation.
So we're gonna have multiple signs. One's gonna say "Bring back the chair for stolen away," and the other one's gonna say "Bring back the drone show."
Yeah. Real nerd. This is a real nerd talk.
Real nerd talk. All right. Well, I'm gonna go next. And I'm going to paint a picture for you. So this is back in 2009. I'm living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And DMB is playing Fenway Park for the second time. This is not Fenway 06, the live tracks. This is Fenway 09. This is the Big Whiskey Tour. I have tickets for both nights of the show. I'm flying on a show day, which I never did again after this because my flight was canceled.
No.
And I didn't make it to Boston until after the show. It was like 11:30 probably. My friends picked me up. They had bought me a poster.
That's so sweet.
It was tough. It was a tough day. But we roll into night 2 of that Fenway Park stand. It's the song debut, the live debut of Alligator Pie, and we are going to fast forward to the encore. And in the E1 slot, the band comes on stage, and the reason that I picked this is because I think it's so out of character for DMB. They come out and they play Dirty Water by the Standouts, which is a staple at Fenway Park. It is the song that's played immediately as soon as the Red Sox win a game. It's also played whenever the Bruins win a game in Boston. So it is a beloved song. It was not the best performance. The band, Dave has a false start. He makes it through. It's fine. Everyone's singing. It's a great moment. But I picked it, and then it goes into Stay. But I picked it because I just thought it was so out of character to not only debut. I mean, Dave debuts cover songs in the E1 slot quite often, but for the full band to debut a cover song,
for the full band, it's pretty unique.
For the full band, it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
And this is a song that has never been played again. This is a one-off cover song that has never been played again. Probably will never get played again because I don't think they'll ever play Fenway. Who knows? And just I thought was very, very unique. And I, look, that was one of the things that that made Night One sting a little bit less for me was getting a one-off performance like that in one of my favorite places in the world.
Love that.
I'm
That's
sorry.
a good one. Yeah.
That was kind of a sad story, to be honest.
You know what's really funny? I still have the ticket from Night One because I couldn't use it, but I refused to put it in my ticket book, so it floats around separately
outside of the ticket book.
Because I can't bring myself to put it in the ticket book.
Yeah, I respect that too. It's like once again another real niche nerdy thing that
I will say
totally get.
Oh my
God.
Can't do it. All right, Sean, bring us home. What's yours?
I think of the shows that I've been at, the one that when we said this is what we're going to do, the first show that popped in my mind, and I told myself I'm going to just go whatever the first thing I think of is. I'm going to go back to the 2011 Caravan year in Atlantic City. Night 3, that encore started out pretty standard Dave solo performance of Some Devil, and I think that the songs that followed aren't necessarily groundbreaking, but I think the way in which everything happened is what really stood out for me. So the encore went Some Devil, Ants Fake into Halloween, back into Ants Marching, and Ants Marching immediately into Thank You, a full version of Thank You. So more than 30-minute encore to wrap up the third night of the Atlantic City Caravan. On a personal note for me, and I think if you follow this band around, everybody can probably tell you exactly when they got their first Halloween. This was my personal first Halloween. In addition to it being a fun encore as a whole, I remember it being an extra fun encore for me personally because this was my first in-person Halloween. But a really cool encore, one that was documented in the DMB Atlantic City release. So if you have not heard this encore, it's a pretty well performed encore in addition to just sounding really good on paper. But I'm going to take it back to Atlantic City 2011.
Can I say something real quick? There we have an episode where we debate the song Halloween, and Matt and myself are huge fans of Halloween, and Trisha and Sean were kind of like, yeah, Halloween's all right. Both Trisha and Sean picked encores with Halloween in it. I just want to make that. I just want to make that.
I don't know why you had to say that because I'm actually mad about it right now. Like I'm actually mad.
I want to throw in there that I like to think that I'm like somewhere in the middle there.
Yes. No, you weren't.
I don't think I definitively.
No, we just had a debate about the song and why it's so beloved.
I hate it as an encore. I still stand by that. I only chose
it. Picked it as an encore,
but I picked it because that I do remember.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
We all had like
what
Star
you get
Eyes.
is like super unique. Pay for what you get is super unique. So to get that in an,
I actually just wanted to talk about Pay for What We Get. I don't really care about.
Sure,
in fact, I thought it was going to be too much. I was really faked. You know?
So was I.
They got me.
Yeah, it really got me too. But I will say, like piggybacking off of that, like getting a lib in an encore is very unique. So that's why that one was actually on my list because I was like, that's a liberation in an encore. Also getting a double encore, which is kind of Sean. I think that Thank You was a double. I think they came back out, right? So it was technically a double encore. I think.
I mean, that's lasted very long.
Yeah.
Ants goes right into Thank You.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, one of the other ones I had chose was a double encore because again, that's a very unique experience to like the band leaves the stage and it's back 2013. They came out, did Big Eyed Fish into Ants.
Yes.
Left the stage.
That was on my list too.
Yeah, left the stage and we were banging on the seats and we were screaming so loud and they came back out and did Halloween. Like I lost my voice for like 3 days after that. Like it was
a friend of mine who I was with left during that. I was there for that. He left.
Oh, poor guy. How is he surviving?
He wanted Halloween and thought that Ants was it.
Oh, ooh, ah, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh. That's terrible.
What does he do with that ticket stub?
That's right. Cuts off just like a little sliver of the side. Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah, yeah, that's a really
yeah.
unique experience. So I think
Yeah.
that, these are all examples of like really unique encores, and we don't get them that often. So I think, and the fact that we're getting them this tour, we're getting like these really unique things says a lot.
Cool.
I hope
Yeah,
to have another
very
one to
cool.
share with everybody
Me
when this tour is
too.
over.
Me too.
Ooh.
We'll see. And speaking of which, we are in for it, guys. We thought we were in for it so far with what I mean. We have been talking about these shows and how good they've been, and things are only looking up. The band goes to
Mhm.
Toronto and then Clarkston, which is right outside Detroit, and then we are in for it. Right? We
We
get
are in for
the
it.
Deer Creek, Richmond, SPAC, Guilford, Camden, all 2-night stands, all
Woof.
back to back to back to back to back. And Lord knows what is going to happen during these shows. I think that I don't know, like it's almost like everything's building for that,
Yeah.
right? Like
Mm.
it seems like the set, sorry, not the set, the tour structure
Hmm.
is different now than it used to be. And so yeah, you'll have a 2-night stand like a Charleston or like a Chicago on the weekend, but to have these midweek and weekend things back to back to back,
Right.
things are
And
just
we really
things are
only
heating
had
up.
those two, Charleston and Chicago. So like this is really where, for me, I feel like the tour is about to like to like the rocket ship's about to take off.
Jump off.
Yeah,
The rocket
about to
ship
get
already,
beamed up.
like, again,
I know
the
it's.
rocket
I
ship,
know
it's
like
already
the-
off because I forgot they
You're
played
right.
Full to Think in Chicago. Like, if you're forgetting
Yeah.
that they played
Yeah.
Full to Think,
Yeah.
you're on the
Right.
rocket. You're already on Pluto.
point.
I mean,
I
you're
don't
not
know.
Good
wrong.
point.
You're not wrong. But like for me personally, like I'm like, oh my god, here come all the 2-nighters. Like so,
Yeah.
like here come
Right.
heavy hitters. Here comes Deer Creek. Here comes SPAC. Here comes Guilford. Here comes Camden. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I hope we're in for it.
Mhm.
No doubt.
Well,
We'll be at a
should-
lot of that. We'll be represented at a lot of these shows. So
We
if
will
you
be.
see us,
we will be.
come tell
And
us your thoughts.
if you would like to commemorate these shows, you could by purchasing a Pod That Jane Likes t-shirt. Again, I'm
Mhm.
going to show it off if you're watching on YouTube here. Our PTJL DMB Guilford 2025 shirt. Trisha's going to show you our tour shirt. These are available at podthatjanelikes.com. And of course, if you have enjoyed what you've heard today, please give us a follow wherever you get your podcast from, as well as on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as well as YouTube. As I said, if you're watching this right now, hit that subscribe button. And we are going to see you out there. The band is on a week break, I think it is. They certainly deserve it after Chicago, and then
Yeah.
they'll be right back with you. We will be right back with you. Go listen to our Rob interview. Go listen to those other episodes that I was talking about, and get pumped, guys, because this is the time. This is where
Woo!
it's July. It is DMB season, and it is only going up from here. So we will talk to you next time. We'll see you on the road, and thanks for tuning in.
See you on the road.
Bye.